The prophecy of Dr. Randy Jewell has come to pass. Pitt has cured polio and won 10 football games in a single season. Now do they have what it takes to win the biggest game for the program since 2009? We discuss that and more on this week's Hail to Pitt podcast.
What was your message about finishing it in these final 30 minutes?
Well, it happened in West Virginia where we knocked off number 2. It happened in South Carolina, and it's happening in Pittsburgh today.
Our guys had a lot of guts tonight. We're just going to keep getting better. I mean, that's what it is.
One hell of a game that you will never, ever forget. We shocked the world!
Hail to Pitt. Hail to Pitt. This is the week of December 4th, 2021, and this is the Hail to Pitt podcast. I'm Alan.
And I'm Vince.
This is it. All the ACC marbles are on the line. The stage is set. The location, Charlotte, North Carolina. Vince, it's our biggest show of all time. I feel like it's almost as big as a backyard brawl week. This is the moment.
This is really what it's all about, Alan. A conference championship, an outright conference championship, something Pitt hasn't won since joining the ACC, something Pitt couldn't do in the Big East, win it outright, undisputed. They have a chance to do that, and this is the biggest game as far as I'm concerned since that 2009 Big East championship game. A chance to really propel this program to, I don't know if I want to necessarily call it the next level, but to propel it to national relevancy and maybe finish with a top 10 ranking, the best they would have done since the early 80s.
Do you understand right now, Pitt fans? 10-win season. If you were born around the time we were born in the late 80s, this is the best Pitt team you've ever witnessed, statistically, record-wise. And now they have a chance to win the ACC. By gum, that puts them on the island of relevancy in college football. A big old bowl game, an amazing new year we could be facing if Pitt can beat Wake Forest of all teams, the most unlikely, I think, of all of the conference championships. Vince, safe to say?
Probably. I mean, that Big 12 one is a little, probably a little surprising for some. But yeah, absolutely. I think people had a hunch maybe that Wake Forest could be a good team, that Pitt could be a good team. But both of them being good and both of them standing alone at the top, I don't think anybody saw that coming.
So let's get into it. This is going to be a fun show, our biggest show, if you ask me. I'm so hyped. I'm hyped that Vince gets to go to the game while I won't be there, but I am going to be glued, and I'm going to be more intense than I've ever been, and maybe even on this show. Please, I'm going to try to pace myself and not scream in your ears. Let's start at H2P Show on Twitter. If you want to follow us on social media, interact with us there. DMs are open. Hail to Pitt Podcast at gmail.com. A way to email us if you'd like to interact with us that way. Or just reach out and say, hey, you're doing a great job. Or, hey, you absolutely suck. You could do it via email. Hail to, that's the number 2, Pitt Podcast at gmail.com. We appreciate all the feedback all season long. It's been a tremendous season of podcasting, watching football, and then podcasting some more. And interacting with you all season long, it makes the season more fulfilling to me. It is easily my favorite Pitt football season ever. And it's all because of, well, not just the team being great, but all of you awesome listeners who've been subscribing and telling all your fellow Pitt fans about the show. It's been super fun. And really easy to put together because of our great sponsor, Pretty Easy Podcasts. You can go to prettyeasypodcasts.com right now if you are a budding podcaster. Say you want to do a show on any kind of topic under the sun, and you just don't know how to do the audio editing or getting your show on Apple Podcasts. Pretty Easy Podcast takes care of that for you. They work with you. You have someone to help guide you, to bounce ideas off of, to be a partner as you podcast at an affordable rate. We're not talking about some big time Hollywood production that you got to pay for, and that'll help you do your show. Just go to prettyeasypodcast.com.
They make podcasting pretty easy.
This season sure wasn't easy, Vince, but Pitt's here, ACC championship, and I'm going to start off before we review last week's game, which you can maybe even classify as easy. I'm going to say this. I'm happy that Pitt got to 10 wins, and only 10 wins, because any more wins in the regular season, Pat Narduzzi probably would have got a big contract to go to some other school.
I don't know about that. I mean, it wasn't too long ago, Alan, that a lot of people wanted him fired from this job.
That's college football. It wasn't too long ago. Coach O had the greatest season of any coach ever.
You're right about that. A lot has changed over the past week. But I mean, just to sum that up, yes, it would have been nice to win more games, but I think people need to realize that if you would have told them they'd be in this position right now at the end of the season, I think everybody would have signed up for that. And it just, there was always a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas, but a lot of them went Pitt's way this year too. Finally, they had a lot go their way, and they went out and they beat the teams that they had to, and that was just very impressive.
Sure thing. And in different ways too, which is the most impressive thing to me, is that while there was a stretch where it was pretty consistent, the style and the type of game Pitt was winning, recently we've seen them face adversity and have to rely on some different personnel, different schemes, different tactics, different ways for the ball to bounce their way, and they've done it. I mean, we saw last week the offense did not get off to the amazing hot start they usually get off to. They struggled. We saw the defense come out and shut down a good running attack, which really made me feel good. At least knowing that they could do everything you asked them to defensively, except, of course, stop a slant over the middle. It was great to see the different ways Pitt was able to deal with adversity this year. And last week was really great to see because we saw, I think, more effective running from the offense without Israel Abanikanda. And we also saw Kenny Pickett throw a bunch of touchdowns and make a case for his Heisman Trophy appearance, at least, and being on the ballot.
Yep. 4 touchdowns for Kenny Pickett, tying that Dan Marino record for touchdowns, passing his single season record for touchdowns, setting ACC records for touchdowns. Kenny Pickett just doing it all in a game where...
But come on, the game ain't even the same as it was back when Marino was playing.
It is not. I will be the first one to admit that. A lot more pro formations back then, Alan, that Pitt was running. But right now, a performance, at least offensively, they started off a little slow, only winning 14-7 at the end of the first half, only scoring 31 points overall, but just always in control. Yeah, it seemed like. Offensively, you mentioned Israel Abanikanda not playing in this game, but Vincent Davis, 79 yards, Rodney Hammond, 50 yards. So some sufficient running back play, still with a bunch of offensive linemen out and shuffled around. Owen Drexel did not play in this game, just added to the list of guys who on that offensive line, the right side, who haven't been. And Pitt still was able to step up and control the game. I think if they had to, they would have really, pushed it to score a lot of points. But, I think they played it, rather conservatively there. And I thought that was fine.
Yeah, like you said, never really in doubt. It was controlled, even though they got, Syracuse gets out there, they get an early lead, really early. Really, it was never a question. Pitt went into this stupid, ugly dome and really just put the boots to Syracuse. I think they let up a little bit. They could have definitely beat this team worse than they beat them. Syracuse, they're just super anemic on offense. Almost embarrassing that they were able to get a couple of touchdown passes, especially on the defense. But I guess that's when you gamble the way they do on defense, it's bound to happen even against a bad team like that. Giving up the 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and really, they gave up 2 touchdowns, but if you look at that, they really only had 2 drives where they really were able to move the ball. Syracuse, that first drive, and then they had a drive in the second half. Other than that, a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of short play number drives, just not moving the ball down the field at all. Outside of that, really nothing given up. Tucker, their good running back, only 29 yards on 13 carries, by far his lowest output of the season.
That's
this is
great.
A guy, over 100 yards in all but 3 games this season. So Pitt, they do what they do. They went out there, they stopped the run, they forced the quarterback to make tough throws. He did make a couple, but not nearly enough that you're going to need to beat this Pitt defense, Alan.
Oh no, yeah. Credit to Dayon Hayes, Cam Bright. I mean, you had Hayes, Westonhouse. I mean, he had really some guys stepping up and getting playing time in this game that hadn't played all year, doing really well against a good running back.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that. It seemed like, Coach Narduzzi, not that he was not treating this game as an important game, but it seemed like a lot of guys, he played a lot more players, I should say. Dayon Hayes got his most snaps, it seemed like, in quite a while. Bangley Kamara, another defensive lineman, in there, playing a lot more than normal. So it kind of seemed like that, not necessarily a preseason type game, but once the game was in control, they substituted more guys in there, making sure everybody is fresh for this huge game on Saturday night.
Yeah, defensive line played great too this game. It was I think refreshing to see, and the rotation just expanded. The amount of just Pitt so multiple on defense. Really, what an amazing job all season long. We can talk about the hiccups here and there and the frustrations we saw a couple of times, but ultimately the way that the Pitt defense, the whole unit was asked to play all season long. So many guys were asked to play. And just plug in and fill those roles and do those jobs. Like, it's a total team effort, really. They have guys who are stars who are really good, I think, and could end up in the NFL, but really nobody on the defense all season long tried to do too much, and I don't think anybody gave or was lacking any effort. It was amazing to see this defense, I think, grow all season long, and now they might have their toughest test in conference play against Wake Forest, high-flying offense, Vince. Coming off the Syracuse game also, that's a bit of an issue, I think, because it was really had to be one of the easiest weeks, not in the game, but just, game planning, knowing where you were at. Defensively, Pitt had some time off. Technically they didn't, but mentally I think they at least were able to check out a little, and some players probably did when they were able to rest up and the new guys were thrown out there.
Yeah, and they I think they needed a little bit of a rest, Alan. They had a highly stressful game against North Carolina. They had a very tough game against Virginia, a team that just would not go away, a team that lit them up a little bit. So I think some guys needed some rest. So I don't have any problem with that, but they are going to need to come out sharp on Saturday night. This Wake Forest team, they put up a lot of points on Boston College. I know Boston College was very shorthanded, but they came out ready to play this past week in a game that they had to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was excited. I went into the week last week on the show. I said, expecting we were going to be playing NC State, and that's not how it turned out. Wake Forest took care of business. Impressively too. Before we move off from Syracuse though, I wanted to ask you this, Vince. Kenny Pickett threw for less yards than Matt Schrader from Syracuse in this game. And we heard he had a little bit of a cold or a flu earlier in the week. Going to Wake Forest week. Any concern whatsoever about Kenny Pickett's performance last week, at least in terms of getting chunks on offense, and any concerns with flu-like symptoms for ACC championship?
Well, I guess we should talk about the flu first. It was reported that he did not practice certainly on Tuesday. He was back at practice on Wednesday, so I don't know what he did earlier in the week, a Sunday and Monday. I'm presuming that there was at least one day off there, but he said that he's fully recovered from the flu and he's ready to go out there and put on the best possible game he can this Saturday. Now there's also all kinds of rumors and speculation that other people had the flu on the team. We don't really have any of that information, so we'll see. Hopefully everybody is healed up and ready to go.
I mean, whatever he did, I'm just glad he did it. It was a chicken soup, matzo ball soup, Mama Russa's meatballs, whatever it was. As long as Kenny Pickett's feeling good now, Vince, it's all that matters. And I think he's going to need to perform a little bit better than he did against Syracuse, against Wake Forest.
Well, I don't think he necessarily had a bad game against Syracuse, and we don't know if he was sick during that game or not. But he did have 4 touchdowns. He had one bad interception on a double move where the cornerback just did not bite on that move, and it got intercepted there. So I don't want to say that he played. I wouldn't say he played bad at all. I think he played adequate. He didn't need to put on a tremendous performance because the game was so well in control.
That's true, but I can make the argument that in this Syracuse game, and I mean, I mean, this was a rough one to watch for a while until Pitt started putting pedal to the metal and causing turnovers, scoring, getting the drives going. But the drives weren't really going; they weren't happening. For the first quarter was horrendous for Pitt.
Yep.
I mean, we also saw there was a drive. I think they went out there. It was a 3 and out. It was negative yards. It was like negative 20 yards. I mean, they went out there, had some really rough drives. You brought up the interception. They did settle for a field goal later in the game. I'm just saying there were some moments in that game that Pitt could have really clobbered Syracuse, but whatever it was, I'm not going to chalk it up to Syracuse playing well. I would more so say it's Pitt not playing well in the dome because that's just what they do sometimes.
Yeah,
but it wasn't the best Kenny Pickett performance, and that's what tells you he's a Heisman candidate, right?
Yeah.
4 touchdowns in a bad game, I would say.
Yeah. We were talking before the game. With C.J. Stroud and Ohio State going down. With Bryce Young with Alabama not playing good at all and Auburn just giving them that game, the door is open for Kenny Pickett to make a run at that Heisman Trophy. I'm telling you, specifically if Young gets shut down by Georgia this week, Stroud not playing, if Kenny could put on a huge show on prime time network television, Alan, not cable, network television
for the first time.
People are seeing Kenny Pickett for the first time this week. I don't think that cannot be stated enough.
A lot of voters probably are.
Do you think a lot of people are like, well, I think I'm picking Young, I think I'm picking Stroud, but I'm going to wait until about midnight Saturday until I see this Pickett kid play?
In any season ever, you have to this year. I mean, you have to take all that data and all that game tape in this year for the Heisman, I think. And, sure, Kenny Pickett hasn't gone up against Georgia and like Bryce Young's going to get to, but he's going to get shut down. I'm telling you,
Oh,
He
yeah.
has a chance to win, but he's going to get clobbered. It's what an all-time defense he's playing. Kenny has it teed up. There's nothing more, I think, at the end of it, there's nothing more Kenny Pickett could have done to win the Heisman Trophy than he did this year. He's going to have, I think, an absolutely perfect resume for his ceiling, for the Pitt quarterback ceiling going into this year. And, let the chips fall where they may.
You gotta factor in, when people are voting. If people are if people have already voted, then I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. But if people waited to see all the games, then if people are going to remember what they saw last, that could be a huge difference in this race. Yeah,
and I don't know why they would vote early, especially in a year like this year, where there's just 4 quarters of football left to play. Come on.
If you look at some of these gambling websites, Alan, you got Young, you got Stroud number 1 and 2 in odds. You got Kenny Pickett number 3. All of a sudden this week, that Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end from Michigan, has the 4th best odds. And yeah. I can't imagine that voters are, were sitting there all along, planning on voting for this guy. And he is a great player, and he's going to probably be one of the top picks in the NFL draft. But I can't imagine he was on Heisman voter radars. And I understand that the sports books need to manage risk, and maybe that's why the odds are the way they are. But they know what they're doing. So there's got to be something to some of these odd movements, and the fact that Kenny is still up there in the top 3, I think is very, very telling.
Yeah, this is not a Reggie Bush type year or a Charlie Ward where who's getting it. This is totally up in the air. So not only is Pitt's conference championship on the line, but we could see a guy going out there and doing everything he can to win that Heisman Trophy on Saturday, all on the line for Kenny personally in the game and the team. Oh man, it's the highest stakes college football game that I've ever had stake in this much as a fan, because we're watching Pitt in the biggest game in our lifetime, Vince. Let's set it up. Wake Forest in North Carolina. They have the home field advantage. Not really, but they do.
Yeah.
And it's an ACC championship. It's a trip to the Peach Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, one of those bowls. And it's the Heisman Trophy. It's, Vince will say, most importantly, being on that island of relevancy and recruiting.
Yeah.
The future of the program could be great if Pitt can win an ACC championship. That's how important winning is, especially to young kids looking. Can you imagine if Pitt starts recruiting well in the WPIAL? After winning this game, all the kids playing high school football in Western PA right now, Vince, that are watching this team already, that's doing Pitt favors.
Well, if you think about it, other schools around here that recruit this area heavily, or anywhere for that matter, for a long time, they've been able to say, well, yeah, you could go to Pitt, but you're not going to have a really good season. You're never going to play in a New Year's Six bowl game. Well, if they win this game this Saturday, that'll change. Other coaches will probably still say that it's like a fluke or a quack or something like that. But I'm gonna tell you that it's real if they could come out with a victory this Saturday.
Oh, and not to mention, they are really, if you look at it realistically, Pitt's big selling point is you come here, you could really go to the NFL. We'll get you ready for that. We do it all the time. But if you come here, you're going to have a great time playing here while you're here in big games. If you could actually legitimately sell that now you have the resume, Pat Narduzzi, man, that's so much more on the line this Saturday too.
Yeah. If you come to Pitt, you could have a cheeseburger named after you, just like Kenny Pickett.
Hell yeah. Come on. I can't wait for the things Kenny Pickett's doing for NIL players in the city of Pittsburgh for the future too. There are all sorts of opportunities just because of this one player. It's amazing. It's a legendary run. And he also did it podcasting and radio hosting all season long. Sorry, Tyler Palko, my new favorite Pitt player of all time, and we get to see him play at least 2 more times.
Yeah. And none bigger than this game Saturday night. Wake Forest, a 10-2 ball club, just like Pitt. They've lost to Clemson and North Carolina. Allen. That North Carolina game was a non-conference game. So that's one of the main reasons why.
Just like Pitt, one non-conference loss and one conference loss.
Yeah. So I've been doing some heavy research on this team, Allen. I'm gonna give the listeners some perspective how they've done this year against some of the common opponents that Pitt's played against. We'll start off with some of the bad ones here. Duke, they squashed them 45-7. And Pitt won that game 54-29 after a little bit of a shaky start. Syracuse, the Pitt just dispatched 31-14. They actually took Wake Forest to overtime. Allen, overtime, 40-37 was the final score there. Just wild how Syracuse was able to score that many points on anybody. So I don't know what that was about. Virginia, who Pitt had a barn burner of a game against, won 48-38. Wake Forest beat them 37-17. How on earth they held Virginia to only 17 points? I do not know. This Wake Forest defense is not very good, but somehow they were able to put together a great performance there. Now they have 2 losses, as we said. Clemson, 27-48. They lost that game. And somehow Clemson's offense clicked that game, put up almost 50 points, only able to muster 17 against Pitt in that 27-17 loss. And then, my goodness, North Carolina, they had a 2-score lead in that fourth quarter, ended up losing 58-55. They just could not stop the run there at all, Allen. And this Wake Forest defense, while they've had some good point performances, we said Virginia in this past week against a depleted Boston College squad, this is a team that's giving up like 200 yards per game on the ground, 113th in the country in yards per rush. So, I know we're talking about Kenny Pickett being a hero in this game and willing the team to win. And I have no doubt that he's going to be a big part of that if they're going to come out on top. But at the same time, this running game is going to be very, very, very important. This team can be had, Wake Forest, on the ground. So whether it's Israel Bonaconda coming back, whether it's Rodney Hammond, Vincent Davis, I think they really got to get those guys going, especially if we could get a lead. If we could get a lead in this game, we may be able to just squeeze the life out of it.
I mean, that's the thing you really, I think, should focus on, too, because what Wake Forest does offensively is the worst possible matchup for Pitt. It's the worst. RPOs and just stuff all over the middle. I mean, just all over. And then when they get you caught napping and thinking about that so much, you're sleeping on the edge, and bam, they're going deep. They are dangerous offensively.
Yes, absolutely.
So if this becomes a track meet, it's anybody's ball game. And then it's just really, can you keep up? Can you not make the mistakes? They have great players. They have all ACC type players. Jaquari Roberson, great wide receiver. Pitt has Jordan Addison. Pitt has Pickett. They have Sam Hartman. Offensively, they match up. They've got the weapons. But defensively is where it's at. And defensively, Pitt has guys who could make plays and maybe make those splash plays to give them the advantage. But what do you do with that advantage? Do you just keep scoring? I say no. I say, like Vince said, hopefully you shove it down their throat with the run. just pound on them and eat up lots of clock in this game is what my fingers are. I'm breaking my fingers crossing them so bad. I hope Pitt wins the battle of possession in this game.
Well, yeah, I think that's going to be important. And I'm not saying that we need to go extremely conservative. I think we're going to need to score. Maybe need to score every time we touch the ball, but to just tire them out, to demoralize them on the ground, just eating up yards every play with that running game, opening up big pass plays, and eventually scoring a touchdown on a long drive. We saw it in previous games this year in the fourth quarter where, they had, 7, 8, 9, 10-minute drives. That's going to be very critical. They're going to need to be able to do that on Saturday night.
For sure. And I don't care who it is. I mean, the status we're not going to really know until game time. If Abanaconda's out there, that gives Pitt so much more on the ground. I know that, Davis and Hammond have looked good, but I really think that they're going to need Izzy here just to have that big play ability, right? Because Hammonds could just pound them for 4 to 7 yards on the ground at a time. And Davis could spark a little something, but in terms of just explosion, having Izzy there gives Pitt just so much more. Not to mention what they've been doing with Kroll and that Bartholomew guy. The weapons Kenny has, he could use having that. The multiple weapons is really Pitt has been great at it, using everybody, and that's why Kenny's maybe going to win the Heisman. He's using everybody. Hartman has A.T. Perry and Roberson, and really, I don't think he'll need much more, will he? Because they're going to be running around in one-on-ones all day, and those guys will be open.
Yeah. Talk about these guys, specifically A.T. Perry. This guy, well, first of all, both of them, those receivers, over 1,000 yards, each of them this year. A.T. Perry, 13 touchdowns, almost 20 yards per catch. This guy's going to the NFL, I'll tell you that right now. Just a big physical specimen, going to be tough to stop. And they got somebody that could get him the ball in Sam Hartman. Alan, this guy, a true QB1 in every sense of the word. If you, we talk about how Kenny Pickett is a BMOC. Sam Hartman's got that same BMOC quality in him. I'm telling you, I recommend everybody to go binge watch season 2 of QB1 this week on Netflix in order to get prepared for this game. This guy is tough. He is a tough kid. Kenny, what does he have? 40 touchdowns on the season. Sam Hartman's got 37 touchdowns. He is right there. This guy is going to be tough to stop. And Alan, you talked about they have a scheme that is very difficult for Pitt's offense to stop for some reason. They have that RPO, that slow mesh RPO attack. He just so difficult for this Pitt team for some reason. I don't know why. And I think one thing is that RPO that they do is a little bit of slow developing. So Haba, Kalijah Kancey, they are going to have time to get in the backfield and disrupt this, and I think that's going to be extremely critical.
Yes, splash play, really one or two on from the defense could be it, because I think the margin for error for the offenses are razor thin. It's going to be a game of keep up. Can you keep up with the other unit? Can Kenny and all his weapons keep up with Sam Hartman and his? And really, Pitt has the defensive players who are going to make it easier on Kenny Pickett and the offense to do that. Then Sam Hartman's the Wake Forest defense, they don't have anybody really performing above the mold. Really, anybody who's too high above average on their defense. Travion Red, their safety's okay. He's pretty good. He's a pretty good player. And then they have an end, Rondell Bothroyd, who could get after you. 7 sacks on the season. They also have another guy with 7 sacks in Villain. great name, Luigi Villain, but it's not spelt like Luigi, Super Mario Luigi. So this guy's like he's like not even Waluigi. He's evil. He's coming from a different angle here against the Pitt offense. So they have guys who are barely above average or just about average. So the fact is Pitt's offensive line has to go out there against what they're facing up front, not be stupid and take care of business. And I think they're on paper, they should be able to. But in a game like this, anything can happen. We'll see who steps up, because the cool thing about this game too, Vince, with Wake Forest and Pitt, neither of these teams have any players who have been in positions on stages like this before. So we don't really know who the big game players are, I think, yet. Yeah, sure, they played in big regular season college football games, but a championship caliber player, who is that on either team? Obviously, we all believe in Sam Hartman and Kenny Pickett, but who are going to be those guys who come out of nowhere and they just had that great performance in that big game? There's going to be one or two of them.
I like what you said there. When the lights come on, we're going to find out who is really going to be a superstar player in a championship game. We don't. I mean, Pitt played in some big games, but Pitt's played in this ACC championship game before. Some of these players on this team were in that, and it wasn't much of a game in 2018. So there is some taste of that, but we're going to find out who's really going to be able to step up. There's a lot of hungry guys on both squads.
For sure. And we'll see who that is. I mean, I don't know if you're gonna predict. I know we're gonna do the score later on, but do you see anyone on Pitt besides Addison and Kenny Pickett that could show up? They could really do something that you think maybe that guy's a championship game caliber player?
There's a lot of championship caliber game players on Pitt. I'm gonna focus on a little bit on offense, a little bit on defense, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. The offensive line has not played the best over the past couple weeks. They've had a lot of injuries there. Owen Drexel, hopefully he's going to be back for this game. Gabe Hoy was out for a while. He returned last week. Jake Cradle probably not coming back. So there's been some offensive line shuffling there. I don't know if that's been the reason for why there's been some struggling. Maybe it's the other team is blitzing more. I'm not sure, but they have to step up and give Kenny Pickett time. When he's had time this year, he has been just deadly accurate. And that has really been a key for this offense that's made him so good. The offensive line's played great for most of the year. They got to play great on Saturday night. And then defensively, I feel confident that this defensive line is going to bring it. I really do. I think they're going to be able to disrupt a lot of the things that are going to be happening. I think that's going to be critical. But these cornerbacks, Alan, these safeties, they're going to be covering these top receivers, maybe the best duo receivers they're going to be going against all season. Those guys have to play well. Damari Mathis, AJ Woods, whoever it may be out there, needs to have the game of their lives this Saturday night.
I mean, that it's going to be a lot of running around and just hoping you don't get called for flags, but also being a pest as much as you can legally within the rules. That's the toughest job anybody has. Obviously, yes, the Pitt corners on Saturday, but man, I feel like we're really glossing over the future of Pitt, and the fact is, at the end of the season in games like this or in bowl games, you get that peak. You always see someone step up. Like last year, you had Vincent Davis. I mean, was the most unpredictable, ridiculous game anybody had, I think, for the team all season. Maybe in college football, there are very few guys who had games like that, over 200 yards rushing in a game. But he's not the guy I'm focused on. I think we could see Rodney Hammond really go out there and show you the force Pitt will have at running back for a few years to come, and maybe have just a dominant, suffocating performance. I'm hoping. I'm hoping. I think he could be a guy like him could be the key. But then again, they don't really put him in too early in the game. That might all be depending on Izzy's status. So we'll keep an eye on. As much as I want to pick Jared Wayne as my sneaky surprise pick of MVP in this game, Vince, ACC championship MVP. I don't know if it happens. I think you're going to see big games from Kenny and Jordan Addison, but you brought it up. Defensive line, that's where the magic can happen for Pitt. Someone up front for Pitt can really make some magic happen and force a tip ball or a fumble or create a play that turns into an interception, because you brought it up. The cornerbacks have such a tough job covering the Wake Forest wide receivers in this game. It's going to be very difficult. I mean, this is like maybe, I don't know. The Virginia receivers and passing game was pretty awesome seeing what they did, but covering Roberson and Perry will not be easy. What will help them, someone up front like a Kalijah Cansey or Habaduk Baldonado making a big play. That's what you're looking for, just as it's been all season long. But who's got that championship medal? Man, it's so unpredictable. But I cannot wait. And I think Pitt is perfectly primed and ready for a game like this. It's not going to be too big a moment for any of the Pitt Panthers. They know what's up. The last, I think, 3 weeks, the fact that the Virginia game was so tough, I think might have been a blessing. The fact that the UNC game was so tough, a blessing. Wake Forest has been in some dogfights, but you compared and contrasted them. I don't know if they've been in anything like the fires Pitt's been through this year.
Yeah, that's a good point, because, as soon as Pitt lost to Miami, they basically had to win every game. Every game had some major meaning. They had to beat North Carolina. They had to beat Virginia in order to make it to this ACC championship game. They had to beat Syracuse to get to the 10 wins. That would have been extremely deflating had they lost that game. They've been in battles with meaningful games that, even though last week seemed easy, it was very meaningful for the team, very meaningful for the program. And this game, this Saturday night, this is the end of this journey here that they've gone through this past month of just tough battles, and hopefully they have enough left in the tank to get it done.
Wake Forest has been in close games all season long. I'm not taking anything away from them. But they're a team that plays out front really well. They've been if you look at their close games, they were leading in most of them, and then they became close contests, except maybe the Syracuse game where they had to battle some adversity. Pitt has dug itself out of holes. They've dug themselves. They've climbed mountains and then dug holes in the same game and then gave up leads. I mean, it's been roller coaster. It's been near psychotic what they've put themselves through. But I think in terms of the grizzled young veterans on the Pitt side, that might give them an edge compared to what Wake Forest is bringing to this game.
But and that's the thing, about Pitt, this year, there's been a couple times, and where they've had a slow start. They had a slow start against Clemson. They had a slow start against Virginia. They had a slow start even last week against Syracuse. A slow start against Duke. But they weathered the storm in every single one of those games. Only that Miami game, as recent, the second half of the season, where they got down and they just couldn't get back up. Even though they were right back in that game after, giving up, 21 points very quickly. In all these games, they've taken a punch early, but then they've gotten right back up and they've swung back. That could happen this game, and they can't let the game get away from them. They can't afford to get down, multiple scores against this team. This team they're playing against too good for that.
They are very good, but they'll give up a lead. So I'm going to say if one team is going to go down in this game early and has a chance to come back, the more capable team is Pitt. Wake Forest goes down early, and I don't think have at least the resume that Pitt has in fighting back in that kind of game. So that's one thing Pitt also has going over. If it is a slow start, like it has been in some games, they still will have a chance. Wake Forest they never start slow, pretty much. They start off really well in the first halves of games. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on immediately. Who's winning at halftime? So important in this, because if it's Pitt, they are the team that is really capable of making the second half laughable and not even close. I think Wake Forest is going to have a little bit tougher time, but is definitely capable of stomping out Pitt. But of course, it's going to be who doesn't make those mistakes. And, oh, man, we know both teams are capable of making mistakes. We see both teams are capable of blowing leads. But this is a game where it's going to be different. It's the ACC championship, baby. Oh, man, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped. You're driving down Saturday. That's risky of you, Vince. You're driving down the day of. Don't drive too fast. You know they got a lot of weird – highways on the way to North Carolina got a lot of weird state cops. They're going to be looking out for you. They're knowing you're coming. So just be careful.
That's a good point. I'm sure that, everybody in the state of North Carolina is going to be trying to keep any Pitt fans out of there. So we may need to sneak in somehow.
Yeah, this is also something that we'll keep an eye on. The fact that it's in the state that Wake Forest resides in. I mean, it's a neutral site, but I assume. What do you think the discrepancy will be? How many Wake to Pitt fans?
I'm not quite sure. Wake, a smaller school. I'm not sure. I have a feeling for that, but I'm sure that the conference and they probably have a preference for which team they would rather have win, and I don't think it's the outsider from the north.
This is a conference that, yes, it comes from the Raycom network and Bojangles. I mean, all these. The ACC lives in North Carolina. Let's not get it twisted. Although Pitt is very important to the ACC in terms of the media and the facilities we have on campus. The conference relies on the university for a lot of things.
Oh, absolutely, they do. And maybe going forward, maybe they realize, Pitt is their best chance. Clemson, they're down. They may not get back up. Florida State, they're on the verge of disappearance.
This is a great chance for Pitt too to really shed that we're a Big East team playing in the ACC stigma we have with probably a lot of the original ACC teams. This is a chance for Pitt to solidify itself as an Atlantic Coast Conference staple.
Do you think that if Pitt wins this game, that the conference should be renamed the Big East?
I would say yes. Anytime a Big East school wins the championship, it should be called the Big East for that year. In football only, of course.
This is truly a battle of brand supremacy.
It is. It's great. I can't wait. So much on the line. I mean, you could do an entire show on just listing all the big things on the line Saturday.
Yeah.
Not just the Kenny's Heisman, not just the ACC championship. It's read between the lines. What an amazing game we're in for. And hopefully Pitt shows up. Everybody's nervous. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's excited. And the internet is abuzz. Pitt is it. Hashtag H2P's going crazy on Twitter. It's been really fun prepping for this show. And then, of course, Panther Lair. I mean, this is what you live for if you're over on the real deep Pitt talking forums, Vince. And we're everywhere. And that's why we talk about it all each week when we hit the Pitternet.
Can you explain what internet is?
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
And to all those faceless keyboard warriors on Twitter.
But we're a good darn football team. I'm proud of these guys.
Weaver is coming on Panther Lair said, Pitt can beat Wake with any QB on the roster. We just need a line and a running back. I'm not going to go that far. Yeah, I'm not going that far.
But kind of what we were saying, Wake Forest, horrible at stopping the run, 113th in the country in yards per rush. And I think there's only 120 some teams. So they're not very good at that.
Don't get too cocky, pal, because yes, the stats say they're really bad, but they, according to another reference point we use on this show for data, PFF, They're only the 81st worst run defense in all the country.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, still, my point still holds that the offensive line, the run blocking, it's got to be there. The running backs got to do their part. If Kenny Pickett's going to be he's Pitt's best player. He's very important to the success of this game. But a quality running game can really put this one to bed.
Yes.
In the second half, but I think they got to even establish the run in the first half. This shouldn't be something that they wait on. I think they got to really mix it up and see what's working. Make Wake Forest stop you every which way possible. Don't be predictable.
You think if Whipple goes out there and they actually start Rodney Hammond and just give him the ball 8 straight times in the first drive, that'll really throw Wake Forest off? They just pound
it probably would. It probably would, and it would
work.
Yeah,
it would work if Pitt's offensive line is playing up to snuff.
And then they're all concerned about it, and then they put in some of their biggest guys to stop the run, and then all of a sudden you hit them with a Bonaconda on the outside for a big game.
Yeah, they bring those safeties up. Jordan Addison's in for a double Bundy game, baby. Weaver's coming might be on to something here. I don't know. MV_41 was on Twitter and said, sure, you could watch Michigan and Iowa balance their checkbook and assemble IKEA furniture according to the directions next Saturday. Or you could watch Pitt and Wake Forest go Christmas shopping with a stolen credit card and set off fireworks their uncle brought home from Tijuana. Well said. That is exactly my point. An unlikely ACC championship game you never thought you'd see. You probably will never see again. You have no clue what you're getting, except it's going to be spectacular. Yeah. And then versus something like what the Big Ten's giving you, which is the script and your recollection of that game is going to be the same recollection your great uncle has from some Big Ten title game in the 70s. So who gives a damn? This is way different. It's going to be different.
Oh, this is the total in this game, Alan, is 71.5. So obviously some fireworks expected. That Michigan Iowa game, Iowa is just so boring. And I don't see how they could even score in this game. We'll talk about it a little later. Pam, our co-host, as soon as these rankings came out, playoff rankings, and Iowa was ranked ahead of Pitt, she said she will not rest until Pitt is ranked higher than Iowa. She is so mad. She is just furious. For her saying that she is not going to sleep until Pitt is ranked higher is very impressive. These two games are going to be going head to head. I imagine most people are going to be tuning in to watch this Michigan-Iowa game, but I imagine they're going to be changing the channel within an hour or so.
Oh, yeah, unless you're a fan of those two teams. Why would you watch when Pitt and Wake Forest are going to be just explosions all over your screen? And, yeah, I mean, some of the other teams ahead of Pitt on this list. I'll tell you again, another reference point we use, and one I value way more, Pro Football Focus, in their power rankings have Pitt ranked 9th. And definitely ahead of Iowa, Vince.
Yeah, I don't doubt it at all. Iowa is so bad. I can't believe how bad they are.
they are in the Big Ten title game, that's for sure.
Yeah, somehow.
But hell to Pitt, hashtag H2P, baby. The Pitternet a buzz talking about it. I love seeing outsiders too. I love the people who now, with this big college football weekend, all the eyeballs on Pitt that didn't watch them all season long, or they've been like, man, I've been wanting to watch Pitt, but they haven't been on network TV yet. Here's their chance. And they're talking about it online, but around town, man, it's something different, Vince. Of course, there's the old timers that are refusing to acknowledge when I say, hey, this is the best Pitt team I've ever seen. They just laugh. Then there are other people, younger kids who are like, I can't believe how great Pitt is. I can't wait till I'm out of high school and I can go to Pitt just because I want to be like Kenny Pickett and I want to root for the Panthers. It's been such a fun season. A lot of that going around town this week.
Yeah. Don't underestimate that. What kind of effect Kenny Pickett can have on admissions here. Just a lot of people wanting to be a part of this magic, even though he's not going to be here next season, at least playing for the Panthers. That's for sure. But he could, there still is a possibility of some other great quarterback play that could come on down the line. But right now we're talking about Kenny Pickett, his quest for an ACC championship, his quest for the Heisman. That's what everybody is talking about this week.
Another Saturday coming, and the Panthers are playing. Time to find out what the answers are saying.
You know, I heard on 93.7 The Fan that Kenny Pickett might actually win a Heisman.
Oh, come on. You know he ain't winning nothing. That Ron Cook, he ain't even going to vote for him.
Maybe not, but he still has the best hair in town, though. I'll give him that much.
Oh, best since Yager. You remember when we saw him down at Ross Park Mall?
Oh, yeah, he's wearing all that denim.
Yeah, it was right when it opened. When was that? 89 or 88?
88, I think I was down there, Kenny Pickett's been around town, everybody's seeing him.
Oh, I bet he's going to Ross Park Mall.
Hail to Pitt.
What the answers are saying.
So that's what the Inzers are saying. Kenny Pickett, massive opportunity here. Massive opportunity for Pitt this Saturday night. ABC, 8 o'clock, Alan. But there is some, I cannot wait to predict this game, but there's some other massive games around the country we got to talk about. Alan, this is a huge, huge weekend for Pitt. I really got to hear it from you this time.
Oh, college football. Don't you dare be telling me coaches are leaving their teams before all these big games. What are they thinking? There's so much on the line. But you know what? Such is life in college football. Just thankful our coach didn't jump ship, Vince, before the big championship game. And we've got them all over the place. It's a championship weekend. Where are we going first? Pac-12, Big 12, Big 10?
We'll go chronological order. Friday night, we're not going to hit all these championship games, but Friday night in the Pac-12, Las Vegas, Nevada, Utah, a 2.5-point favorite over Oregon. Alan, Oregon was really in the running to make the college football playoff, and then they got blasted in Salt Lake City. It's very difficult to beat a team twice in 1 year, though.
Super hard, but I still like Utah in the Pac-12 title game. There's just something about Oregon and getting over that hump to me. Tavion Thomas, I think, is a really good running back for Utah. Neutralize what Oregon could do getting after the passer. And, I think they're going to win this game again. The Utes are going to beat them twice.
I don't know. I mean, Oregon, I thought they were done, but then they came out and they took it to Oregon State. Winning the Pac-12, going to the Rose Bowl, that's nothing to sneeze at. And if some weird stuff happens, maybe they have an outside shot of making the playoff. So I am going to pick Oregon to win this game. I am.
Oh, man, they couldn't do jack squat on offense against Utah a couple weeks ago. So I just don't see it. I don't want to see Utah win the Pac-12 because much like how people probably see Pitt in the ACC, I don't see Utah as a Pac-12 team yet, but maybe this is the year they earn their right to be called an official Pac-12 team.
Maybe. In the Big 12, Texas Stadium, or should I say AT&T Stadium, sorry. Baylor, a 5.5-point dog to Oklahoma State. I think Baylor's quarterback maybe questionable in this game. I'm not quite sure. Oklahoma State finally getting over that Oklahoma hump as everything to play for. I would expect them to make the playoff if they could win this ball game here, barring some other weird circumstances. So I am going to pick Oklahoma State. I'm not quite sure if they're going to cover though.
Yeah, I don't know about the was it 5.5 you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll give them a touchdown win. Yeah, I could go by 6, but I'm picking Oklahoma State. This is just unfortunate that we're going to have to see them occupy a spot in the playoff. But Someone has to be the 4th seed in that tournament. But they're going to win the game. I'm rooting hard for Aranda, but don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I don't think so either. In the American championship, Houston is a 10.5-point underdog at Cincinnati. This will be a home game for them. Houston lost their first game of the season, have ran the table ever since then. I think they're a very good team. I think they're going to cover this game, this 10.5. Cincinnati has stepped up big in their biggest games of the year, even though they were kind of sleepwalking and struggling with other inferior opponents. I think Cincinnati will probably win, but I do think Houston gets inside this number here.
Yeah, are we doing 10.5 or 10 or 9.5?
10.5 is what I have here.
We're doing 10.5. I will go inside that. I like a nice even 10-point win for Cincinnati. And I mean, when it comes to them being undefeated after this game and then getting into the playoff, it just you can't. Sorry. I mean, Notre Dame is their big win of the year. And then this game, if they win it, I mean, then I'm sorry. And they're in a group of 5 team. That's why they're a group of 5, not power 5. And that's maybe I'm with Lee Corso here, where they should have different ranking system for that set of schools, maybe moving forward. But that's where I
just don't think they're as good. I mean, that UCF team from a few years ago was way better than Cincinnati. It may be, if that UCF team, if the roles were reversed, now, I would feel a lot more comfortable with them getting in. I think Cincinnati is going to get absolutely destroyed against whoever if they have to play a Georgia or a Michigan. I don't even think it's going to be close.
Is there any way Pitt faces Cincinnati in a bowl game?
I don't, unless they were left out of the playoff somehow, then they could. If they would win, they would have to win this game and be left out of the playoff. Seems a little unlikely at this point, but maybe it could happen.
I mean, we're going to see. So you're saying we're going to see a group of 5 in the playoff for the first time?
I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen. I don't think that's a lock to happen, first of all. But I think there's a scenario that if Alabama were to win, then Alabama, a Michigan, Georgia, and an Oklahoma State, I think would make it above Cincinnati. But barring that, it seems like they're going to make it by default.
It's all comes down to that SEC championship game, really. I think is what it comes down to for Cincinnati. Not only do they have to take care of business, but does Alabama win, or does Georgia keep it up with one of the greatest defenses and being the outright number 1 team in the country going into the playoff? That's what it's all about for Cincinnati, and for the SEC, where it just means more. Vince, what's this one at 7 points?
I'm seeing 6.5 right now. Georgia being favored by 6.5, basically across the board. I'm seeing right now. Alabama has really struggled down the stretch here. Their offensive line can't block anybody, and that's not good news against a Georgia defense that is just crushing people. I guess, Nick Saban, I guess, justifies this line being as close as it is. And he's had Georgia's had Alabama on the ropes several times in these championship and playoff games. And he's had them down at halftime, yet somehow Alabama comes back and wins. Alabama has to win this game in order to make the playoff, I would think. So I don't see how I have to go with Georgia to win this game, and I would think that they would cover too. With the way Alabama's played these last month of the season, just hasn't been that impressive. And Georgia they haven't been tested recently. Maybe that's the only thing going against them.
That I might have an aneurysm thinking about this because logic, my recency bias and logic says, well, you're not betting against Nick Saban. It's really do or die for his team for the college football playoff. It's the SEC championship. It's Georgia. They own all of that always, but they're never in this position where in the SEC title game, it's Alabama has to win. Usually Alabama's in this game, even if they lose, they're still in, and the other team might get in. It's opposite now. They're the desperate ones. And I don't know. I'm throwing the Auburn game out the window. I don't care. It's a rivalry game. It's the Iron Bowl. It was too close for comfort. It was weird, but I'm not going to fault Alabama for that. The fact that Bryce Young had to throw 51 times in 80 overtimes or whatever it was, I'm not going to fault him for that. But going out there against the Georgia defense for him, a young man like that, I don't know. Maybe they would be more equipped for this game if it was a Mac Jones or just like a guy who was a veteran, a quarterback with who's been in that kind of scenario, or at least witnessed it from the sidelines really close and rubbed elbows. Bryce Young done some of that, but I don't know, man. It's so hard to pick. I love Henry Tutu. I love Alabama's got some good players. Christian Harris is very good. But this is just a stupid Georgia team. Even though my gut says pick Alabama, you idiot. It always goes down like that. I'm not. I'm going with Georgia. Yeah, I don't know about that cover, though. I think it's going to be like a 1-point game. It's going to be very close.
I don't know what to make of it. I mean, this line has been out for quite a while. Because these two teams had already clinched this spot, and this game opened at 4, I believe, a couple weeks ago. And they laid 4, they laid 4.5, they laid 5, 5.5, up to 6, 6.5 now. So there's a tremendous amount of support for Georgia. You got to expect that that they're thinking that there's going to have to be some money coming back the other way for Alabama. If not, then I mean, is the book going to get absolutely crushed on this game? I can't imagine that that's going to be the case. I'm with you. My conventional wisdom is, from what I've seen, is that Georgia would win this game, probably by at least a touchdown, probably more. But I feel like they know something about this that I do not. And that's why I think it's going to be a little closer than that.
If Alabama wins, my prediction, Kool-Aid McKinstry has a pick 6 for a big touchdown at some point in the second half of this game from Birmingham, Alabama's own at defensive back for the Crimson Tide. That's my bold prediction for championship weekend, Vince.
Well, they're probably going to need it.
Kool-Aid. Iowa, Michigan. What way? Are we done picking the game? Is it over? Are we on to the pick game yet?
We might as well be. No, we'll give some thoughts on this. Iowa, 11-point dog against Michigan. I got to imagine that this line is somewhat of an overreaction. That Michigan had that just dominating performance against Ohio State, and Iowa, while they did beat Nebraska 28-21 on Friday, day after Thanksgiving, Alan, Iowa in that game was down 21-6 at one point. They won the game 28-21. They had 4 field goals, a safety, and a blocked punt for a touchdown. I mean, this, I just don't understand how this, I mean, they don't play against good competition. Let's get that, said first and foremost. But this does seem like a lot of points because Iowa's defense is decently well, but the way Michigan's offense was playing, you'd think they would be able to put up enough points to cover this number, but maybe they're blowed up. To some degree. They do have everything to play for in this game. They have to win this game to make the playoff. So I do think Michigan's going to win, and I honestly would not have a problem laying the 11 points.
I do because it's Jim Harbaugh, and maybe they beat Ohio State, but they're going to slip up. They're not. I don't know. I feel like Iowa's going to win, and I love that.
Oh my God!
I love that they were going to win with safeties and block kicks and kick returns and punt returns and maybe some maybe a play where it's accidentally a backwards lateral instead of a screen pass, and the ball's just sitting on the turf and someone picks it up and runs it in, and nobody on Michigan knows what's going on. Something stupid like that could happen, and that's what happens when Iowa plays. Even though Michigan did that to Ohio State, still, I don't find their offense too impressive. I still feel like they're susceptible to maybe making mistakes. Special teams can also be an issue. Michigan had a lot of momentum in that game and kind of stalled and started back up again and then got going early in the game last week. I could see Iowa pulling it out, Vince. I'll pick them. What the hell?
How are they going to score?
I'm predicting a blocked punt, a pick six, just whatever the script was when they played Iowa State earlier this year. That exact scenario.
Yeah, that very well could happen. The main event, as far as I'm concerned, big time fireworks from Tijuana in this one. Pitt, a 3-point favorite at Bank of America Stadium against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. This is what it's all about here. ACC championship on the line, Big East championship on the line, possibly. This game is this Wake Forest team. I know I said last week that they're the team I wanted to play the most. I'd rather play them than NC State and Clemson. I still feel that way, but this team is still incredibly dangerous. Their offense can really turn it on, and they have the ability to give Pitt problems. I know we talked about that RPO game, Alan, but what I'm also concerned about is A.T. Perry on those quick wide receiver screens that we could not stop against Miami. This guy is a big boy. It could be tough to bring down. I think that kind of stuff is going to make this Wake Forest team very difficult to beat, very difficult to get a lead on. But I do feel that Pitt's defense has enough to make a key turnover, a key stop when they have to. Kenny Pickett getting a key first down late in the game to maintain a lead when they have to. So I'm going to pick Pitt to win this game. I'm going to say a final score of 48-44.
All right, and that's a cover.
Yes, it is.
And that's a cover. And if Pitt's winning, they're covering. And I'm picking Pitt to win. I'm picking them to cover. We broke it all down. We know that the two offenses are very good. We know that Wake Forest can't stop the run. We know that Pitt's defense really can't stop what Wake Forest is really good at doing through the air. But they are capable of making just one of those big plays, maybe a Servassier pick on one of those screen passes you brought up, Vince. Just snatching it right out of the backfield, jumping the play, knowing the play beforehand, making educated guesses at the line of scrimmage, jumping and just going for the gusto on defense. I'm hoping we see it, and I think we will. I'm going to say the final score will be, let's go with, I don't think it's going to be as high octane scoring like that. That's what you're predicting over. What's that total you got? Over 90. Wow. I'm going to say somewhere closer to 37-32.
Wow.
That's a cover and a win in an ACC championship. All hail the Big East champs.
Yep, that's really all what it comes down to. I don't care if it's by 1 point or 100 points. They got to find a way to come out of here with a victory.
And there you go. That's your championship weekend. That's your biggest game of your damn life as a Pitt fan. If you're of a certain age, if you're older and you're listening, welcome back to fun championship weekend football, because you haven't you probably forgot about it all.
Well, the last time Pitt was in this, was this good, Alan, they weren't in a conference. So it is new for everybody to some degree.
It is. And you know what? Who would have thunk in the first time when Pitt joined the ACC, the first time they'd be in a really big winnable, of course, they've been in this game before, but a winnable ACC championship game. First time they would be in it would be against Wake Forest, and it wouldn't be for a basketball championship, Vince. That's the mind-blowing thing, too. And, of course, Pitt basketball stinks, but soccer, very good. The Elite Eight, got to mention them playing Notre Dame Saturday as well.
Yep, yeah, a big weekend for the Panthers. Championships can be won, getting closer to other championships. So you said soccer in the Elite Eight against Notre Dame on Saturday. Volleyball, the number 3 overall seed in the tournament, Alan. They're going to be starting, and these are going to be some home games. They start on Friday night against UMBC. And then I believe they play the winner of Penn State and Towson on Saturday. So very important for the volleyball team to get off to a hot start in this tournament. They made it, I believe it was to the Elite Eight last year. Hopefully they could get a little bit farther this year and bring home that championship. And also Lance White and his women's basketball team.
His great turnaround. The great turnaround.
They beat Rutgers tonight in the ACC Big Ten Championship as of this recording. They're 6-2 overall. One of those losses was in a very tough loss, a close game against Texas A&M, who's traditionally one of the great programs in this country. This team has only won 5 games each of the past 2 years, and they're already 6-2. So just a very impressive start. I'm very anxious to see how they do in ACC play. This is a well-needed start to the season for a program that's been down for quite a while.
Absolutely, huge boost too on to the campus that's getting turned around, especially considering how the other side at the Pete not holding down their end of the bargain, but Pitt athletics all around, top to bottom, making you very proud if you're in Oakland or your alumnus. And you know what? How proud are we all going to be on Saturday if Pitt wins the ACC title, and then the following weekend we get to watch Kenny Pickett and his hair in New York City. Oh my goodness.
If he gets it done in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'll tell you, there's going to be a lot of limousine riding, jet flying, Alan. He's going to have a hard time holding those alligators down Saturday night.
But got to get the job done first against the Demon Deacons. And hopefully you are all prepared now for Saturday. Vince, I hope you're prepared. Now you got the drive Saturday morning. You've got the show under your belt. Now the only thing left for you to do is get down to North Carolina and get your ass in the seat to watch this epic football game.
I cannot wait. I may not be able to sleep until the game is over. It is just a championship moment, an opportunity that we've waited for a long, long time, and this team has what it takes to do it. 8 o'clock Saturday night, ABC, prime time, bright lights, big city, ACC championship.
Let's do this at H2P Show if you want to follow us. We'll be back next week, so make sure you hit us up on social or email us, hailthe2pitpodcast@gmail.com. We want to hear your reactions to the ball game, and then next week we'll be back to recap it, look ahead to Heisman season, talking bowl season. What a fun season we've had. Unfortunately, I have to sit and watch the game on a beach because I have to marry my cousin and her awesome fiance. But you know what? It's the privilege of a lifetime, and I'm not going to complain about it it's during the same day as Pitt in the ACC championship game because it is an early wedding, Vince. So no big deal. But marry him, I do. Do you? Yes, you do. Kiss. Yeah. All right. You're done. Let's go watch Pitt beat Wake Forest. That's my schedule.
That sounds like a hell of a day on Saturday.
It's going to be one to remember. I hope I remember it. Jeez, oh man. All right, everybody. Make sure you pace yourself and make sure you're ready. It's Pitt and Wake Forest on Saturday. Vince, got any more wisdom before the ACC Championship of the World?
Just whatever you can do to propel this team to a victory on Saturday night, you got to do it. It takes not just the whole team. It takes all the Pitt fans out there. Hail to Pitt.
You know, today we really got ourselves ready. Saturday is the day, I swear to God. It's it. The one we've been waiting for. ACC Championship. Let's get it done, everybody. We'll see you next week. Hail to Pitt.